What are the different types and styles of yoga? Because there's so many. Iyengar, Vinyasa, Ashtanga, Bikram, Barkan, Yin, restorative. The point of this video is there's no traditional style of yoga. There's no regular yoga. Just like there's different styles of the martial arts. There's karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, Wing Chun, Kung Pao. Wait a minute, I think that's a Chinese food chicken dish. Hope that wasn't politically incorrect.
And the chicken, the Kung Pao chicken.
The point is, yoga is as stylized as the martial arts, and the different types of yoga can be extremely different. I was one of the original owners of a yoga studio in Plantation, Florida called Yoga Connection. We had 2 rooms. We had a hot room and a non-hot room. So I was obviously teaching in the hot room one day. The class was just about to start. Somebody comes into the room, opens the door. Obviously the heat hits them in the face, and she says, no. I want regular yoga. Get me out of here! Once again, there's no such thing. And the reason why this is a common misunderstanding is because yoga has become recently almost watered down. People can do a teacher training program after only a couple years of experience, and I believe you should have at least 10, 15 years of experience under your belt. I was teaching yoga for 20 years before I started my teacher training programs, and a lot of times they're not connected to a particular lineage, therefore lacking substance. When there's a history behind your yoga, passed down from teacher after teacher through generations, there's a method to the science, therefore giving it more credibility. So let's talk about Iyengar first. Iyengar is very stylized yoga, and they're very alignment oriented. They use props like straps and ropes and blocks to help you adjust yourself into the proper position. Many times if you go to a Iyengar class, it's almost like a clinic where they're teaching you how to do yoga without actually doing it. Not all the schools. I know that John Shoemaker has a studio in Washington, D.C., and they actually have a flow. But for the most part, Iyengar yoga is really breaking down the pose almost in a clinic fashion so you can really understand the alignment. Before we continue, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. You will learn all about hot yoga, tutorials, philosophy, flows. Hit the like and the subscribe button right now. Any questions or comments, put them down below. I'm happy to get back to you. So back to Iyengar yoga. Iyengar's teacher, BKS Iyengar's teacher, was a man named Krishnamacharya, who is considered to be the most popular Hatha Yoga teacher of our generation. Another very popular Hatha Yoga teacher came from my lineage, and that was Bikram's teacher, Vishnu Ghosh. Vishnu Ghosh and Krishnamacharya had very similar influences, even though they were thousands of miles or kilometers away from each other. And their similar influence was gymnastics. Krishnamacharya's yoga studio was adjacent to a gymnasium, so all the jump throughs and the jump backs and the arm balances were inspired by the gymnastics. Same thing with Vishnu Ghosh, way up high in the northern part of India, where he was a gymnastics teacher, and he had another athletic teacher from Germany who also taught him about modern day athletics. Before Krishnamacharya and Vishnu Ghosh, they didn't even call the standing poses asana. Asana literally means seat. Doesn't mean posture, that we sort of nicknamed it to posture. The yogi takes his meditation seat, or his asana. Now it started becoming more of an athletic influence. So they use the postures to get stronger, healthier, and also to heal the body. Now Krishnamacharya, like I said, his student was BKS Iyengar from Iyengar Yoga. Another student of his was Pattabhi Jois. And Pattabhi Jois developed his own style of Hatha Yoga called Ashtanga Yoga. Unfortunately, he confused the entire modern day world because everybody thinks Ashtanga Yoga is their set sequences, just like Bikram has a set sequence. There are 6, however, sequences that are set and done the same way each day. I did a video a while back explaining the real Ashtanga Yoga, which is 2,000 years ago, Patanjali. Check that out after you watch this video. Like I said before, if you're doing an Ashtanga class, it's a set sequence. You're doing the same poses the same way each day, which, however, created a different movement, and that's where the Vinyasa class comes from. So Vinyasa yoga, it was more improvisational. They didn't want to be set in that sequence. They wanted to be able to be more creative, create their own sequence, which can be dangerous. If you're not an experienced teacher, you just don't want to make up a sequence. There's a method to the madness behind the Ashtanga set sequence, behind Bikram's 26 and 2, behind the Barkan sequence that I've developed over years and years of study. Not just because you took a class and you're going to do that posture at this particular position. There's a method to the madness. We set the body up. We get the body warmed up. Now we get ready to go to the next level and the next level. Now we're really warmed up. We go to the floor. So there's different approaches to different styles of yoga. Now, the reason why Krishnamacharya is one of the most popular teachers is because so many teachers that have become famous, I call them marquee teachers in America, in the United States, were students of this particular style of yoga, either Iyengar, Ashtanga, and the Vinyasa. They came out of Ashtanga. There's Rodney Yee and Sean Korn and Shiva Ray and Baron Baptiste. Even though he started out with Bikram, he really more became under this particular umbrella I call the Krishnamacharyans. Our style of yoga, the hot yoga world, comes from the northern eastern part of the country, again the state of Bengal, city of Calcutta, Vishnu Ghosh. And Vishnu Ghosh developed this style of yoga to help heal the body. Yes, it's athletic. Yes, it's physically challenging and demanding. But at the same time, his main intention behind developing this style of yoga was to heal the body. Now, as a student, it's important to find a yoga studio or style of yoga that you are drawn to, that touches your heart, not just because it's down the street and it's half a block away and you don't have to drive too far, or because it's less money. You want to find a yoga class that you actually connect with. And if you want to become a teacher even more so, you don't want to just take a teacher training program because it's convenient or because you're price shopping. You want to take a yoga teacher training program that focuses on the type of yoga that you are drawn to. I had somebody come to me years ago who was offered a position to teach yoga somewhere down in the Bahamas, but she needed a certification to teach yoga, and I happened to be the closest. I happened to be the one that was starting right away, so she just went to my teacher training program, even though this was not the yoga she was drawn to. Needless to say, it was a disaster because it's not the yoga she wanted to.
I didn't sign up for this.
So do your due diligence. Pick a teacher training program. Pick a teacher, hopefully somebody that's experienced, not someone that's been doing yoga just for a few years. Someone that stylizes in the yoga that you are drawn to, that touches your heart. Now let's talk about Bikram yoga. Bikram yoga also is a set sequence. 26 postures, 2 breathing exercise. That's what defines Bikram yoga, not the poses that are in the sequence. As much as Bikram wanted to claim ownership to those poses, standing head to knee, standing bow, the balancing stick pose, that's not Bikram yoga. Bikram put together a sequence, 26 postures, 2 breathing exercises. That defines what is Bikram yoga. Same thing in the Barkan method. From this lineage, very much inspired by Bikram, because he was my teacher, inspired by Vishnu Ghosh, I chose postures in a different set sequence, even though every single posture in Bikram's sequence is in mine as well, that I developed over the years to, in my opinion, create a greater range of motion, to develop the spine, which is the main focus in Hatha Yoga, to be stronger, flexible, and healthy. Now, Yin Yoga is a very interesting style of yoga. One of the developers of Yin Yoga was a guy named Paul Grilly, who I did my teacher training program with back in the early 1980s. Yin Yoga, they stay in positions, they hold them for long periods of time, 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time, to get the softening of the fascia, the softening of the connective tissue, so they can break through all those blockages. Different, and not to be confused with restorative yoga. Restorative yoga is more of a gentle approach, like you're doing child pose the whole time, or you're doing happy baby. Judith Lassiter, one of the developers of restorative yoga, came from the Iyengar world, who I met on the circuit. I remember she said to me, you really should do a restorative yoga on occasion, because the yoga you do is so intense, this will give your body a chance to recover. So restorative yoga is different. Even though Yin Yoga is very slow, they hold positions for a long period of time, which can be extremely painful. But restorative yoga is more of a relaxed, gentle approach. And one of the most misunderstood words in modern day yoga is Hatha Yoga. Actually, it's pronounced Hatha. Hatha Yoga. Bikram pronounces it Hatha because he has a Bengali accent. That's what he speaks. That's the language he speaks, is Bengali, up in the state of Bengal. The originator of Hatha Yoga, or Hatha Yoga, was a guy named Goraksha 1,000 years ago. And they focused mostly on pranayama. But the reason why he chose the word Hatha, and once again I did a video on this as well, check it out after you watch this video, and it gives you a lot more detailed explanation of why he chose the word Hatha Yoga, which actually means forceful. One of the misinterpreted words, like I say, one of the misinterpreted words, a lot of people think it's more of a gentle approach, that they hold the positions for a long period of time, not as long as Yin, but they do hold the positions for a long time in a slow fashion. Goraksha 1,000 years ago chose the word forceful to forcefully, with the help of asana, but back then even more so pranayam, to awaken an energy inside of us. We awaken the pranic energy, which is the life force, and eventually awaken the sleeping feminine energy we call the Kundalini Shakti. The metaphor that we use is like the hammer hits the anvil. And as the hammer hits the anvil, the energy begins to shoot up the spine, the center channel, the Sushumna Nadi. Now imagine Goraksha's in the center of India 1,000 years ago. All the different teachers over time, all the different regions of India that decided to teach Hatha Yoga, because not everybody's a Hatha Yoga teacher. That's how these different styles came about. From the north, from the south, from the east, from the southeast. Iyengar, Ashtanga, the Krishnamacharyan side. Bikram, Barkan, the Vishnu Ghosh side. Then there's Yen, and there's Kripalu, and there's Integral. The reason why I'm making this video, you want to find a yoga style that you are drawn to, something that touches your heart, something that you connect with. That is what I encourage you. That's the type of yoga you want to pursue. If you have to drive 30, 40 minutes, so be it. If that's the teacher, if that's the style of yoga you want in your life, not because it's half block down the street and it's less expensive. If that's the type of yoga you don't want to do, what's the point? What's the point? I've been practicing yoga for 44 years, teaching for almost 43 years. It's miracle stuff. But you want to find a yoga studio, find a yoga teacher you connect with that touches your heart. Pursue that practice. Practice on a daily, weekly basis. It will transform your life, guaranteed. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell. Any comments, put them down below. I'm happy to get back to you. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.